Hello everyone, and welcome to my top 10 tight end video on players for the NFL 2022 draft. I'm not going to waste much time at the start of this one, as I just want to get right into it, so let's get going. Alright, number one, Trey McBride, Colorado State. Please take note of this player because I like him a lot. To me, he is more like a healthier Hunter Henry that just attacks the ball at high points even better. He is a great athlete. He's very aware of his body. He has extreme control over it. And I think he really just, I mean, how do I even describe? I've seen him catch these back shoulder fades. He can sink in these breaks with some of the best tight ends that I've seen. I really just love what I've seen of him out just as a receiver. Even at the catching point, he just attacks the ball at its highest point and just reels it in from there. He doesn't try to body catch out very often. His route running itself is well above average. I think he combines his ability to sink in his breaks very well to help him create separation early, and he does it very often. And that frame he has as well is very good for the position. He can be used as this dump off option for the quarterback. He can be used as a quick read over the middle where contact's going to be kind of looming on his neck, or even just lined out outside the numbers. I saw Colorado actually lined him up at the wide receiver spot before against a cornerback, and they just couldn't hang with him. He was just dunking on him all day long. He is just a pure weapon. Now, if I was to try to get some weaknesses on him, you can try to label him for smaller range of competition, although that didn't seem like it was an issue at the Senior Bowl at all. His blocking is very good, but I think it needs to be a little more consistent. I think he stands up too much and just uses very strong upper body to redirect guys. I think he needs to remember he can use his lower half a lot more. But one more thing is I don't think he offers really more than a hard body to bring down after the catch. I do think he can develop um, some more moves after the catch, unlike some of the other guys I'll talk about on this list, but he doesn't have it right now, and you have to be conscious of that. So this is a bit of a high ceiling projection by me, but Jeremy Ruckert at 2 here has just shown some things on film that I really like. I really like him as an athlete. I don't have any testing numbers to show due to his foot injury, so I'm purely going off of what I've seen on film. So do keep that in mind. I think he plays with a high energy. He shows up big in blocking. Like he will bury guys. And that also shows up when he's running with the ball. He will just try to bury guys in front of him. Hands, nice. There's no issues there. Very soft at the catch, reels it in. Route running, also above average. I think he actually sinks well in his breaks as well. Um, I think putting a safety on him as well is also a mismatch. I've seen them try with linebackers, slot corners, and safeties to try to cover him. Slot corner had the best tape, but he still just outbodied them. He will just box guys out or just straight up use leverage against them when they're trying to fight within that first 5 yards. He'll just out leverage them. Now, his high energy nature does make him a little bit sloppy. I think he really needs to know when to rein it in. And what I mean by a little bit sloppy, I mean, like when I watch him to go to bury guys in the run, I think he can be overzealous in doing so, and he can forget to seal the back end a little bit more. Same thing when he's running with the ball. I think he can kind of just take what's given to him sometimes instead of trying to always burst. It sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't, but it's something to keep note of. He also wasn't asked of much at Ohio State, which was very odd to me. Like the receivers were the main focus, and fair enough, the receivers are fantastic. It's I just the reason I want to note it is it probably means that there is some sort of lack of mental aspect of his game. Like some of the more technical sides of scheme blocking or IDing guys and taking on blitzers, that just might not be there. It's something to keep in note. It could be, and he could be even better than I think, but I would not bank on it as watching this as a team coming in. Charlie Kolar, Iowa State. This is just a solid athlete with length and mental understanding of this position. Watching him gives me the impression that he's just kind of a little bit different than your typical mid-round tight end, and I think if he can get a spot where he can thrive, you could get a very serviceable job out of him here. That lengthy frame shows really nice body control as well, and a good understanding of his position. He can use it to out leverage. He can use it to keep guys in his grasp and control and redirect them in blocking schemes. So there's some really good things he does with his length. The mental fortitude also shows up in his route running as well. I talked about leveraging guys, but I've seen him also get guys leaning. Like he can just plant foot, like make them think he's twisting inside and then break it back out. I've seen him like use them watching his eyes and body motion to get them to go a different way. But there is some weaknesses. I don't see any traits that allow him to be used on kind of deep routes, unlike the first two. I think he's going to be very limited to short and maybe medium type of route running. The blocking itself is neutral. Like I said, he's good using his length to get into good spots, which is nice itself. The strength itself, though, once he has guys in his grasp, I think is a little bit weak. There's moments where I've seen that he should have a guy and he just lets the guy go way too easily. So I consider it just fairly neutral. I think there are things that could be better and things that honestly could be worse. Um, his hands are also a bit inconsistent. Like there's moments where it's like he's just throwing a ball that should just be easily caught and he'll just drop it. But then the next play he'll throw a ball where the guy draped all over him and he catches that with ease. It's just weird. It's just weird to kind of see. And it's really, if he's going to be working in the short to medium kind of depth of the field, it's important that he has solid hands because more often than not, he's going to be having guys kind of tracking and hawking in on him. It's just something to note. Now, you could easily flip this tight end with Kolar, and I would not blame you. This is probably everyone's favorite tight end in this class at 6'7" that runs very fast in a straight line. He is massive, like just an absolute unit of a tight end, and he's an absolute threat in the deep game, unlike Kolar. His hands are solid. He uses them to their fullest ability with his large catch radius. And his blocking as well has been solid for a guy who is basically always fighting an uphill battle, as he's always going to basically lose the leverage game. Any guys who's shorter than him just has that advantage. And of course, when you have a guy who is this large with this large a catch radius, the red zone plays his money here. You're going to get a lot of good one-on-ones with him in the red zone. Now, the reason I have him lower is, despite the testing scores, I've seen stiffness, and it shows in his breaks more than anything. He is fast, and he is quick for his size. Do not get me wrong, but there are limits for him with the size that he has. It's going to make him difficult to be excellent in more smaller, kind of quick pass nuance parts of the game that Ruckert and McBride really excel in, and it's just not his frame to do so. And for that speed getting downfield, he's an extreme long strider. It's not like Tyreek Hill getting deep downfield where it's just so many quick steps that allow him to quickly redirect and spin that speed elsewhere. It's speed in a straight line, more or less. Maybe you get one break, maybe you get him on a post or an outpost, something like that. But it's functional within a certain parameter, is what I'm saying here, which is why I think I'd rank him down here. I could easily see him going at the end of the second, just because it is rare that a guy that size does have those athletic traits. Usually they lumber a lot more. But for me, I'd pump the brakes a little bit. I think there is something there that is a bit of a limiter. Greg Dulcich. I was on this guy early. I made a video on my sleepers in this class, and he made it. Um, he's just a very solid size all around. He uses that size well in the blocking game and out leverage game. He's above average athlete. We saw his testing numbers are very solid. Route running seems nice in the actual ability itself. He's got the ability to sink and create separation. It just needs to happen more consistently. His hands as well, soft at the catch, very nice. Seems overly comfortable on these back shoulder fades, so he seems like he's got a very good conscious idea of where his body is in relation to the sideline. Now, there is some weaknesses. Uh, for example, strength in general is a big weakness I've seen. Just play strength. It hurts him in blocking and kind of powering through contact over the middle. I think he needs to add some more functional play strength to get through that stuff. It's going to be needed at the next level. These guys are all big and fast. I did mention the route running as well. While it looks nice and does need work, I just think it wasn't used to its fullest potential, and I think there's some technical sides to that game, but he just doesn't get quite yet. Like where to sink in zone, where to find soft spots in zone, just some smaller stuff like that that would make me a little more hesitant than picking him a bit earlier. But as I said when I first looked at him, this is a more than solid athlete, and I think you if you're selecting him in the mid rounds, you're not doing yourself a disservice. This is a fun one. Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. Um, he's interesting. He plays fast and he kind of sorts himself through over the middle of traffic very well to get open, even faster than normal. He's very nice in this receiving game where I think if you get him in versus the slot, like a slot corner, I think he can just really just beat on him. He's a bit faster than normal. He's too big for most slots to kind of bump and get him off his routes. He hangs on to stuff through contact very well. I think this is almost, I mean, he doesn't have the speed Evan Engram has, but this is almost Evan Engram-esque where you can kind of get him working in the slot as another receiver. He's also a very high effort player. I saw no plays off from him. He tries to always get pushed at the line, even though it's not his strongest attribute. He does not take a play off, even when he knows the ball's not coming to him. No plays off. I think a lot of coaching staffs will love him like that. His size does make blocking a little more difficult for these larger fronts. He's a little smaller. He's not, I think he's 6'4", if I remember correctly. So not entirely tiny, but his more thinner frame at 245 makes it a bit difficult for him to really work in the power game, so to speak. The routes are nice, but the tree needs to be expanded. Coastal Carolina's tree for him was extremely simple. I think I counted 7 routes, if I remember correctly, and they were all very simplistic. I don't see any kind of multiple breaks or really any kind of comeback, so to speak. They were all kind of just out route or curl, something very simplistic. So I think if a team is to really utilize his full strength and maybe even get him in that slot where I think he could be deadly, I think you need to expand that route tree sooner rather than later. Cade Otton out of Washington. This is a lot of people's favorite early tight end. Not my favorite, but there's some good things here. He is a very good blocker. Like he does very well moving guys within space, and he understands blocking at gap assignments probably better than most people in this class. He also is a very solid athlete. Nothing high end, but nothing low end really. And I think he can be used on these short runs near the line of scrimmage where if you just need a dump off option or just a QB needs someone to find someone in space very quickly, I think K Dot can be used as an option. I think I mentioned this as well in one of my previous mocks, talking about him as a later round player. You can use him in the passing game. I just don't think he's very good there. And the reason is his hands are just not solid. I think it's a bit of a lie to say that his hands are okay. I've seen too many drops and too many what could have been drops from the way he is trying to attack the ball in space that I can be comfortable with it. It's more than what should be normal. He's just not explosive either as an athlete. I've also said that he's just kind of solid. He doesn't create separation overly well. He'll do what he's been asked of, like he'll run the out route, but I just don't see that he'll be very good as that kind of player. Also, should not and cannot be used on deeper routes. That is not him as an athlete. All right, Cole Turner out of Nevada for A tier. He's been interesting as well. He's a very big body tight end, 6'6". He gets active in the receiving game. Very good in the red zone. Teams will like that. As well as his athletic traits are always pretty good. They're not great, but they're good. Especially on his ability to attack the ball on high point throws, which pairs really well with the red zone. I think there is something here for Cole Turner. Now, the reason he's not higher than Kate Otten is blocking is just not good here at all. He's the complete opposite. He just lacks ability to leverage or even just move guys within space and seal off stuff. He's just not adept at it at all. He also doesn't work through contact very well. I think he gets pushed off his route way too easily, even by linebackers. I've seen linebackers chip him, and he just doesn't do very well. So as a receiver, you want more out of him. when looking at like that. I think he's more of a developmental prospect when you are selecting him, and you have to understand that when you're selecting him. Ah, one of our favorite tight ends of this draft, Okonkwo from Maryland. He, man, he's interesting. He's got solid hands. He's good as in his pass catching role. I think he's another one that could be used in the slot. That also, unlike the other one, I think he can get deep, and I think he can get deep very well to create mismatches downfield, get these corners being very grabby. I think everyone knows he's got insane speed, fastest tight end in the class, and he is fast. He really makes it hard to keep up with him with these just lesser athletes, especially if he's getting paired up with guys in the slot that might not be the greatest athletes. Like you have to get guys like, how do I say that? Maybe like Noah Igbinoghene from the Dolphins, right? Just someone who can just keep up with the insane speed. And unlike a lot of the other tight ends in this class, he's actually very difficult to bring down with the ball in his hand. I think that is partially in due to his speed. Um, but even with that being said, I think he just naturally moves well and makes it difficult for guys to bring him down, which is a huge plus here. Now, weaknesses is I don't see any blocking to be had, very much like Cole Turner. I think he has very little understanding as well of the schemes, and I don't think he plays very well in the sense of I don't think his play strength is very strong. So I don't expect much of him as a blocker. I think his mental aspect of the game is also a bit behind. I don't think Maryland caught him too much up to that. I don't think he finds space overly well and like where to find these gaps in zone. I don't know if he knows how to create separation beyond his athletics either. Like he does, I don't see the sinking or the out leveraging that I do with some of the earlier guys. So there is a bit of a development here, but I think if you can develop him, his his ceiling is quite nice as a receiver. I don't know if you can fix his blocking. That's pretty rough. That's gonna take a strong blocking coach, but there is talent here. All right, last guy I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to be doing any honorable mentions for this one. I wanted to keep it just at this for this video. For the last guy I want to talk about is Jake Ferguson out of Wisconsin. There's some good things here. He understands gaps in coverage well, and he does know his routes in relation to them. So unlike the last couple, he actually understands more coverage. He puts an effort in the blocking game, although he's also a lacking blocker. Catching, it's okay. I don't think he's got as soft a hands as some of the other guys. He does make an attempt to go out and get the ball more often than not, but it's not the greatest aspect compared to some others. Again, there's another guy very much like Kolar, where short to mid route running is where he makes his money. I don't think he's got really any kind of deep route to his game. I would not expect it of him. Uh, for those weaknesses as well, I don't think he's a very inspiring athlete. I don't think he does anything above average, which, I mean, that's also why I don't want him to be doing these real deep route running kind of plays. Anything that involves him to do like these kind of double cuts, right? Any kind of zigs, I just wouldn't do it. And for blocking, I think his blocking could be better as well. I said he puts effort into it, which I do credit these guys with if I see it. But he's another one. I think he stands up too much. Which again, when you stand up in blocking, it narrows your base more often than not, which makes you easier to push around and push over. Uh, because you're just gonna lose the leverage game every time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I can maybe do one more before the draft starts, and I hope to see you then. Later.